All right, welcome back to New World Ultimate Guide. This is episode 12. I'm going to show you some cool stuff. We're going to explore, do some fast travel here. And we've got some running ahead of us. So one of the things I'd like to point out is, first of all, those loading screens are great. If you've got a fast computer, it's not a big deal. So as you saw, that was like a 5-10 second loading screen, if that. Now, in the meantime, while we're running, I'd like to bring up something that I think is crucially important. In the real world, so this is a video game, New World, but in the real world, I live in America, and I'm blessed to live in America, and I was not born in America, and I am a citizen, and I do vote, and I have all of my rights. At least seemingly. Obviously there's censorship online and things like that. But all that being said, I do not believe in the process that we're seeing unfold right now. Maybe it's a bad idea to get political, but there's not really a lot of guidance right now. There's a lot of anger and confusion. And sometimes it takes another perspective to just unpack something and maybe even agree with your perspective. Make you feel like you're not alone in thinking what you're thinking. Because I try to be as helpful as I can here. Once New World launches, we're going to be making newer content and more episode-based stuff, but there's going to have to be stuff that we fill the time with, and I've struggled with what do I fill the time with when we're doing stuff just like this. Do I cut the gameplay out, or do I spend time talking about something else? And I do think it's important to mention that, like I said, I'm an immigrant, relocated after 9/11. I'm not a veteran, but my family has been for hundreds of years. And so I kind of fit into all of these different squares. I'm an immigrant. I'm an American. My family's been in America for 400 plus years. We've been here the whole time. But that doesn't mean that, I'm special or anything. It just means that maybe the traditions in my family are a little more traditional than some others. And that's fine, because there's variations in life. But when I look at what's unfolding in the Middle East right now, and I've had really close friends, best friends, roommates, friends' dads and moms, and that have all paid the ultimate price over my life. We're looking at 20 years coming up. I won't go into detail, but I relocated after 9/11 as a child, and I've grown up my whole life with a heavy military presence around, and lots of talks about what Afghanistan is actually like, firsthand testimonies and confessions and stories, and roommates with PTSD, and I've seen probably as much as you could as a civilian without having a direct family member in the service. Maybe more than some people that do. It just depends on. A lot of veterans aren't really that open to talking about their experience because it is so traumatic. That's not fair to say that's all veterans, because there are some veterans that have, I would imagine, excellent experiences that weren't negative for them at all, but not everybody's in that category. So anyways, all that being said, there's a couple things that I've learned from the veterans in my life about this current situation that I think are worth addressing. Has nothing really to do with New World, but anywhere you live in the world, this is relevant to you right now, because this is a world event. unraveling. And it seems like the last 20 years, from my understanding of what I've been told, and I try to absorb as much information as I can because I'm not speaking from first person experience. This is second person experience, or whatever you want to call it. But I trust these people, and they're telling me that you can't trust anyone affiliated with any of these groups, period. That they'll have children blow up your car, or a kid will give you directions or act like he's hurt, so that they'll like pull off the side of the road and hit an IED, that kind of stuff. Now all of that sounds horrible, and it is. And hold on, I'll pick this up in a second. Okay, never mind. All that's horrible, and it is, and God bless and rest the souls of everybody that we've lost in this process. But this is a war based on ideology, which can't be won necessarily or only in the battlefield. There has to be a combination of different tactics and different fronts in order to get like a real victory. There is no victory against this enemy, because this enemy is an idea and like a physical manifestation of that idea. It's not just like, oh, ideas can't hurt you. These threats are very real. Now, what a lot of people don't understand is that they're completely innocent people, hundreds of thousands of them, that have been stuck out there their entire existence and been dealing with. For them, America is like a guardian angel that's just trying to save them, I guess, from their horrible living conditions. And of course, there's people like that all over the world, and America tries to take as best care of as many people as we can. Obviously, there's the old saying, with like airplanes, that you got to put your mask on first before you can help somebody else put their mask on for the oxygen. I guess that means like a whole new thing now, but the thought process is that you got to help yourself before you can help other people. And we've gotten to the point where we need to help ourselves, and the other people need to work on helping themselves. And that's what the whole idea of pulling out of the Middle East is about. But just like Ender says at the end of Ender's game, they said to him when he won the war that, well, we won. And he said, we didn't win. It's not about winning and losing, it's about how we win. And this isn't about whether or not we pull out, because eventually there will be a pullout. What this is really about is how it's being done and who's the priority. And it seems like to me, and like I said, I'm an American citizen who was not born in the country. I had to go through the immigration process. I had to memorize all of the legal, stuff that you need for the citizen test. And even though I was raised in the US, I still had to study for it. So like, just because you're smart and raised in the US doesn't mean you understand how the US works. Even if you pay attention, like, you need to actually dive into the stuff and research it and do your homework and whatnot before you can really understand how the whole system works. Now, all that being said, I feel like there seems to be a continuous problem here in the world of politics, where we elect somebody that is really the lesser evil. They're never really great, amazing, oh, I can't wait to vote for this person candidates. They're usually, you get this scumbag or this loser. You know what I mean? That's just politics. This guy is a liar and this guy is an adulterer. You know what I mean? And it's very rarely that you get anyone that's like actually qualified or a straight shooter. And if you have any experience with lobbyists and big companies and corporations influencing things with their funding and donations. That's why that's the way it is. So the way that things should be done, and like maybe this sounds crazy because of the cyber security issues around the world, but when I was a kid or a young boy, we used to watch American Idol when my parents got home from work and we were done with our homework and finished hockey and all that, did our chores, and then, you know, we'd eat dinner at the table, and afterwards we'd all watch American Idol, which was like revolutionary at the time, and people would dial in and vote for their candidate. And it was good for the first couple of years or seasons, until about like after Clay Aiken and Ruben Studdard. After those two, it started getting to the point where it's like, are people really voting for this person, or is there like, you know, because my mom managed a call center, so I'm wondering, is like, are you able to manipulate the votes by having so many robot phone calls? And the answer is yes. So, you know, that's the reason why people are sketchy about like a digital voting system. But the amount of, I guess you could call it, interaction that we're missing, because we only get to bubble in a circle once every 4 years for a president. And so we get to make one decision on who we trust, and I don't really trust any of them. You know, it's about, like I said, the lesser evil. So you pick somebody that's like, I guess, the closest to your ideals, because that's the best option you have. But what if we could do better than that? What if you could, like American Idol, like vote in from like a registered device? These devices have like your biometrics and all this other stuff. What if you could like vote in, for example, right now, and it would say, should we negotiate with terrorists? Press 1 for yes, press 2 for no, or whatever. It's like touch screen, just like a survey on Facebook. And everybody says, no, don't negotiate with them. Well, then that takes all of the frustration out of making the right decision. And, you know, politically, it makes representatives stick with what their constituents and voters want them to do, rather than lying and lying and lying to get elected, and then not following through with any of the commitments and doing whatever they want and acting like American lives don't matter or people's lives don't matter, and that they're the end all and be all decision making, and we don't even deserve an estimate. Never mind. I mean, how are we supposed to hold anybody accountable if they don't answer our questions or if they just walk away? It's an embarrassment. So I was open-minded to it. I did not vote for the current president. I was open-minded to it when they announced that he won. I still don't believe that it was an honest election, but I thought to myself, they're all puppets anyways, let's just see what happens. And it's almost like they're doing the most destructive things they possibly could. And that's, like I said, I don't mean to get too political, but I think that this all needs to be said, because there's 335 million Americans, okay, that are accounted for, adults, I suppose. I'm not like a statistician or statistics master or something, but there's like 335 million American adults, okay? So why does one senile old man get to decide the future of 7 billion people? That doesn't make any sense. That might have made sense before the internet and before the technologies that we evolved. I would say, like, I'm an advocate for like self-defense, like being able to defend yourself. And so when they bring up the argument that the founding fathers weren't toting muskets like we are in this game, well, that's true. But also, a 1-liter system worked when there was 100,000 guys, but now there's 335 million. So if you guys want to like start cutting partitioning things up into like, they didn't mean this, they didn't mean that. You should just make a whole new thing. So, I don't know. Sounds kind of crazy because we're just like watching a video game recording, and I'm talking about like potentially finding like a new country or upgrading America to like a 2.0, because this system is antiquated and it's tired and it's dangerous and it's unfair and it's costing lives and it's inefficient and it's unjust. And having to sit around and wait for anyone, I mean, one president, it sounds stupid to me. How could one person embody everybody's hopes and aspirations, ideas, and beliefs? They can't. And that's part of like what this whole division is about, is that the whole world, okay, not the whole world, all of the, well, not all of them. I'm not trying to lump everything into a basket here, but there are a lot of poor, bad sources of media outlets. A lot of people are getting fake news. It's dangerous for a lot of people. I think everything needs to be like re-simplified. And I think as long as there's like this two-party system and one leader system, there's always going to be this pull back and forth, which I thought was like, oh yeah, that's, you know, the balance of the American system is that it swings one way and swings back the other and ends up being balanced. Why not just have a system that's actually true democracy or a real republic? Because what we're looking at is still a dictatorship, essentially. I'm being told that I gotta pay taxes to the IRS when they've never showed me any representation of what they're spending their money on. They're spending trillions of dollars. They're giving terrorists billions and billions of dollars and weapons. But they want to come and take my weapons and ask me to pay for it. So, like, I'm torn between a rock and a hard place. Do I pay the taxes because I've always paid my taxes? Do I not pay the taxes because it's going to terrorists? So, like, what do I do now? Because I don't agree with the system. I don't agree with pulling the military out and then saying nobody's stranded, because that's total BS. Everybody with an internet connection can find these videos in Afghanistan right now where there's people that are stranded, there's people that are getting injured and killed. That's all lies. You can't sit here and tell us we're not stupid, okay? Even if you're listening and you've been told you're stupid your whole life, you're not that stupid, first of all, because you're watching this and listening to me. Second of all, you're not stupid because I don't even think you could be so stupid that you wouldn't make the connection. They're giving $100 billion to terrorists and I pay taxes. That's my money. So now they're killing our people and giving my hard-earned money to terrorists after destroying our businesses and jobs and taking our lives. And there were plenty of opportunities. It's not one constituent's fault. Everybody's responsible for this, right? So, solutions, right? Because, I mean, we could complain about everything. So we've addressed what the problem is. The problem is that one person is representing billions of people, and that person could have a bad day. Simple enough. Or that person could be a total imbecile. Or that person can be bought and paid for by all of the evil lobbyists and corporations. You know, the big money, bad people stuff. And I would normally name drop, but I just don't want to be censored. I've been censored so many times just for speaking my mind, which is a constitutional right. You know, it's an amendment that I'm allowed to speak my mind. I'm not threatening anybody. I'm not calling for any violence. There's no any of that. Okay, so just to be clear, I shouldn't be censored for speaking my mind, and I surely shouldn't be held hostage in a situation where our leader is funding terrorists and giving out American lives like they're samples at a convention. It's sick. And of course you can't do everything perfectly, but where are these battle strategists? I mean, we've got how many millions of people are master strategists just in video games? We've got these military guys, it's like they have no idea what they're doing. And I've spent enough time with enough vets to know that, like, the guys that have seen the combat, they really know the real deal. They paid the real price for it. So I'm interested in what they have to say about it. And there's not, if you notice, looking at the television, and if you're old enough to start realizing these patterns, but that's not what we're seeing. There's a handful of vets that they've asked about it, but primarily it's corrupt politicians talking about Afghanistan, lying to us about it, telling us we're stupid, and they don't understand that, like, we've got cell phones with people on the ground out there sending people videos directly to drop boxes in America. So, like, you can't lie to us. This isn't the 1800s. You can't tell us that Europe is doing this and we're just going to believe you, and there's no way we can check it. It takes us a millisecond to check you. And, like, okay, with the speaker, whatever her name is, oh, I'm just going to call you out. Your job is to answer our questions. If you can't answer our questions, then get the F out of that position and give us somebody who can answer the questions. And also, if you're running the country, you don't turn your back on us. You answer our effing questions, because we hired you. You work for us. We are your boss. Okay. So I don't want to get too angry, but it's this really simple concept. We've been infiltrated and betrayed. That's my official statement. What would have been the right thing to do would have been to not even announce America is leaving Afghanistan, because it doesn't matter to anyone that's not in Afghanistan or the areas that they're being relocated to as refugees, which I don't even agree with, first of all. But fine. I'm an immigrant. I can't say they're not allowed to come because they're from this part of the world. That's unfair. That's not equality. So vet them and vaccinate them and make sure that they're not, terrorists or bringing in diseases or anything like that. I'm fine, right? Just like anybody else. But to take in 700,000 people in less than a month from someone that's so unstable during a pandemic when we have vaccines that aren't working, and you can't tell me that they are. Maybe they do, but I've got neighbors whose family is in the ICU and they've all gotten different vaccines. So none of them are working at 100%. Of course, everybody knows nothing's 100%, but that's not what I'm seeing. What I'm seeing on the news and what I'm seeing in my real life and talking to other people is not coinciding. They're different. And so you've got to find your own truth that's somewhere usually in between the two, or one's completely fake. So we've got two alternative realities here. We've got one reality where we need to just pull out, and there's never a good time to pull out. There's that group of thinking and those parties of people. There's never a good time to pull out. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off. Then there's the second school of thinking that says this is a delicate situation that deserves some, extra attention and finesse, and it's sensitive, and so we're going to go about max strategizing this so we can eliminate the most loose ends and risks as possible. And so that second school of thinking is where I find myself. I say people's lives are invaluable. You cannot put a dollar value on a person's life. If there's anything that we know right now, it's that, first of all, everybody knows that life is precious, whether you agree with that or not. It is. Because not every planet has life on it, and not even every part of this earth does. So life is precious, first of all. Second of all, how can you even pretend don't care at this point, because there's a certain point when at first I was like, checking the COVID clock and see what's going on there, and how many people are sick and what countries are they in and what policies are going to slow down what parts. And at a certain point I just thought, I can't continue to watch this. It's causing me like a mental pain, like a mental illness. And if you keep going down this road, it's just going to make you miserable. So you back it off and you learn. Maybe I watch the news like 30 minutes a day. Just get like the big news, make sure you're informed, and then go back on with your life. And a lot of these news companies know it's almost like the whole world has become a reality TV show. And we all live in a clown world where clowns are the kings and the kings are clowns. And everything's inverted. And everybody's so confused that nobody can actually make sense of anything long enough to like fix anything or to even figure out how to control it or change it. And with this two pool of thinking, the one is the YOLO and two is the planner. Okay? So like YOLO is what we're looking at right now. We have a YOLO president and a YOLO vice president and a YOLO Speaker of the House. They're doing with real life American lives what I do in a video game for fun. And what I mean by that is like, if you play Grand Theft Auto, you might like get the fast car and drive as fast as you can down the highway and then crash and fall out and die. Realistic, there's a price to pay for every risk, and sometimes you've got to pay the ultimate price, and that's why you want to minimize risk in your life. You don't want to be boring, but you don't want to be Grand Theft Auto in real life either. So, all that being said, YOLO is like Grand Theft Auto, okay? You're going to drive as fast as you can down the highway, and you're going to say, I've done it before, so I won't get clipped this time either. It's going to be fine. And then this time you get clipped and you die. But it's a video game, so you're just curiously playing around trying to figure out what's going on.
Monarch's Bluffs is a special place. A place where anyone can feel safe and welcome, regardless of where they came from or even what kind of person they are. Yes, you understand. That's why we have to protect this settlement, whatever it takes. We've had a bit of a misunderstanding with the settlement in Windsward, but we need to look after ourselves first. There's a brooch, an heirloom of sorts. We had agreed to give it to them as a gesture of goodwill, but the courier carrying the brooch was waylaid by the Withered, and the brooch was lost. Exactly! Oh, I hoped you'd volunteer. The courier took the North Road, so check the Withered at the Mines de Miclot, go and reclaim it, but then bring it back here. It's a finder's keeper situation at that point.
But like, real world is not a video game, so the president shouldn't be YOLOing. He should be strategizing. So, I'll pick this up in another second.
You know, I've been thinking about the threat of corruption. One thing that can at least give us some comfort is that it will have to overrun Everfall before it gets to our doorstep. No. If the corruption spreads to Everfall, that's their problem. We have enough horrors of our own to deal with right here in Monarch's Bluffs. The kind that remind us of what might happen if we become lost. There are rumors of some kind of aberration. If you will go and destroy it, I will see you rewarded generously. The aberration, it must be destroyed as soon as possible.
So, the strategy should have been, just to be clear, so everybody knows, It should have been to quietly remove as many people as they could. And once they got majority of them out, when they're pressured for an answer of why everybody's leaving, that's when they say, oh, we're leaving earlier than we originally planned on leaving, as like a strategy. But this is embarrassment. I mean, American Airlines in Germany is like flying our people out. I mean, who would have thought America needed them to do it for us?
I hear Bixford and Seville still got their heads up their butts. We gotta do something. Hate to say it, but Gomes is right. We need to be finding allies. I got an idea. It's a little out there, but it might at least earn us a friend. So, Survivalist Lee is influential over in Everfall. He's got an obsession with fashion. Clothes, you know. I know, right? But bring him some ancient textiles as a gift, and we'll have at least one ally out there.
Yes, you must be. You match the description. People talk around here, you know. They say you've been quite a help, and I was like, well, why haven't they helped me? But then I realized, silly Geary, it's because you haven't asked. Yes, honey! Honey's so delicious, it's called devil's honey. It also comes from Devil's Gorge. Collect my honeycombs and I'll give you a taste, but whatever you do, don't touch anything in Devil's Gorge except those apiaries.
So yeah, back to my rant here. We should not have a YOLO administration. I do not feel like he won fairly. That's my opinion. I'm not doing anything wild about it, but that's just what I think. Yeah, I was on Parler seeing all this stuff when they shut it down. So, I mean, I've still got a lot of screenshots of this stuff. They're real documents. They'll exist. You can make up what you think of them, if you know what I'm talking about. But moving forward, I think that American people are kind of tired of this one leader system. And I don't even think our leader is the leader. I feel like he's above it. Somebody else is telling him what to do. That's how lobbyists work. They do what, it's like a pay to play. If you want the cool skin, well, it's going to cost you $1 million to my fund, right? And then it's like the president sets up his own shop and is like, hey, if you buy this quote-unquote artwork for $500,000 in crypto to my offshores account, then I might be able to pass this bill for you. And that's how all of this corruption starts. So the first thing is that there shouldn't be one leader, because there's 335 million people. Even if there was one person per 100 million, we should have 3.5 presidents. Okay, so like the system is antiquated, it doesn't make sense.
Don't look, fish. The ghost is back. Probably with ideas. Read about the Soul Wardens, did you? Psh, what a pretentious name. Sworn guardians of the uncorrupted and so forth. Fairy tales, candles in the dark, lies. Real, true, those are different things. How dreadful the knowledge of truth can be when there's no help in truth. Sophocles had the right idea. However true the Soul Wardens might have once been, they're just lies now. Are you still listening, Ghost? Why bother? My words are wasted like bait lost from the hook. No one listens to the Mad Wanderer. But corruption was coming, is coming, will come. No Soul Wardens this time. The fish don't know, so neither do I. Nor do I want to, nor should you. Unless you like stories of suffering and lost causes. Of course, you've got that lost cause kind of face. We'll have none of that here. Anywhere, everywhere, the world's filled with lessons. for the fools who seek them. The Soul Wardens were like that too. Try Octorus Tower then. I seem to remember losing a cause myself.
So, we need to have an administration that's not YOLO, has more than one leader. Because if you look at the House of Representatives, Congress, Senate, they're all relative to the population that they're representing. And so is the electoral college voting system based on points of population in cities in different states. So like, really heavily populated states like California and New York, they have the most voting points. Florida's probably going to take that because everybody's leaving those states for Florida. But let's say that Florida gets such a high population that we have so many points that like basically the entire election swings on whether or not Florida's feeling this way or that way. I feel like if we took both options for president right now, we would be a lot more balanced. There might be more internal conflict in the executive branch, but we would ultimately, as American citizens, we would get a better product, a better experience. Our country would be stronger, it'd be more balanced. And that's kind of like, what we're looking at right now is the whole system is swung to the left because we had Daddy for 4 years and everybody wanted to kick out Daddy and have a party. And now we're having a party, but the terrorists showed up at our party and they know that this new guy, he's a party animal. He's not Daddy. So Daddy's going to give them $100 for beer, even though they're underage. And he's going to say he won't call the cops or tell their parents as long as he gets something out of it. We've got the drunk dad at the barbecue heading our ship right now, giving kids beers and shit. This is a metaphor, but I hope that you get what I'm saying. This guy is the drunk dad at the barbecue that is giving you firecrackers behind the shed and telling you not to tell your mom. That's who this guy is. And if you want to keep all your fingers, you should probably not hang out with this guy. I don't know how to make it any more simple than that. Not that anyone's hanging out with him. He won't even look at a camera for, answer a question. It's funny too when you watch the vetted question. They have reporters that they've picked out and they've told them what questions they can ask, and then they'll call on them for their scripted question and they'll switch it up and ask the real question that everybody wants the answer to. And then they'll be like, oh, you betrayed me, you didn't ask the scripted question. This is not a soap opera where your job is to be the best actor or perform the best. Your job is to protect people and balance the whole system, the economy, social, economic, everything. And make sure it's all fair and equal too. And while I'm all about holding corporations accountable for paying taxes because they're not, and that's well known, that's not even a debate. A lot of the biggest companies pay zero taxes. And of course there's some CPA which jump in the comments and say, well, that's not true because you can write off deductibles and losses and there's also depreciation. Look, I've started 10 businesses, okay? I'm doing this for fun, 1, because I enjoy doing it. 2, because I've seen other people do stuff similar and regret not taking the opportunity to do the same thing. And 3, I really feel like by sharing my opinion, maybe the 100 people that hear this, maybe it'll have a profound effect on their life. I think that we're having an epidemic of isolation and ignorance. And that's so simple to overcome, especially with the tools that we have. Like, they don't want you talking to your neighbors, but you're totally allowed to use any of the digital products that you want, any of the platforms, anything. If I want to go talk to my neighbor in person, that's not allowed. But if I want to Facebook message him, which for the record, I deleted my Facebook months ago, if I wanted to Facebook my neighbor, that's fine. So as long as the Zuck is getting paid, I'm allowed to speak. But as long as the Zuck's not getting paid, and therefore he's not paying his lobbyists, and the lobbyists aren't paying his politicians, then I have no free speech. So this is all intricately entwined. Intricately entwined. And that's a tongue twister. And there's a couple points of these issues, and they all coincide and meet up at a common point, which is we should not have one leader. The system should be more interactive. I mean, for God's sakes, we had Dungeons and Dragons DVD movies in the late 90s that were interactive, and you could make a choice and the movie was different. Okay? We should have that kind of stuff for our country. Like, the president wants to do this or that. Vote. And then we all vote. Whether that's on a government website or an app or whatever the heck. And it doesn't need to be like as official as a real presidential vote. It could be just like a poll. But like, why are we relying on pollsters? That's where all the corruption starts. They go to certain areas and they say, we're going to poll. They're the most racist people there are. They're going to go to a specific area that has a specific demographic, and they're going to ask specific questions with two things in mind. One, to make them back up whatever it is that their lobbyists are trying to push and accomplish. Or two, they're going to try to make these people look stupid. Either way, they're tools, and their whole purpose is to manipulate people and manipulate statistics. This is the Amrine Temple, or Amrine Mine, by the way. But they're a little too high level for me, so I'm gonna take off here. But anyways, these people are sick. So how do we get these people out of the system? I mean, I don't need some 70-year-old man in Oklahoma or something that's some manager for some fund deciding what politicians are passing, what laws that affect my life. So like, I personally would like to see that on my phone. Like, it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't need to be, it's just a poll. So at least like the world can see what the people think, not what the president thinks. Because there's a major difference between what I think and what my president thinks, if you even want to call him that. So it's hard. I've heard the stories, and I've helped put together or back together some of these guys' lives. And oh man, you can't just respawn, you know? So we can't go YOLOing life like it's a video game. You can't just respawn like this. You can always print more money. You can always make more things. But that doesn't mean give all your money and things to terrorists. That's crazy. I can't even believe that's a sentence that I even have to reflect on. It's honestly a failure and totally embarrassing. Now, all that being said, moving forward, I really hope that they do an excellent job and save face and don't make us look like garbage on the world stage. Because, well, I mean, I would like to have a nice life and future and raise a family and enjoy all of the things that everyone else before me's gotten to enjoy. and we've already got so many problems. I spent 10 years and all of my 20s, like 10 years, all my 20s, and $1 million building this off-grid, chemical-free, all-natural, super high productive aquaponics farm. Commercial scale, it's massive. I could feed hundreds or thousands of people. I've tried to get help from everywhere you can imagine, and going through this whole process, my motivation was I'm going to make the food system of the future, and we're going to make healthy food and be able to put it in areas of underprivileged people, and then also just have more sustainable sourcing and farming methods just everywhere. Like, I could grow anywhere. So I could grow organic food in a parking lot, or in outer space, or underground, or terraform Mars, or whatever. So knowing all these things, I got into school, I've gotten all these certifications and stuff, and done all this research, and I've built all these systems, and I've reached out to the government and everybody so many times through social media, in person, and they just don't give a shit. I literally spent 10 years and $1 million, and I ended up getting partially handicapped because, like, I finished the build, I got on the news, and we were starting to run out of money because we hadn't started making any money yet. It's a long process to get to the point of building the farm where it was a point where I could grow. So then we started growing, and I was on the news. I'm working on delivering stuff to restaurants and other places, but nobody in the government gave a flying F that, and they still don't. So, like, I've tagged Elon Musk probably like 1 million times, at least 1 million times, between like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all these different accounts that I've made. I've tagged him probably once a day for the last 10 years. Okay? Sounds obsessive, but I actually really care. You know, I think what he's doing is cool. I think that he's probably getting a bad rap all the time, and people blame him for a lot of shit. That's not his fault. But honestly, like, his brother, Kimball, is doing like a miniature version of what I've already done. He's trying to take shipping containers and grow inside them, which, by the way, that was my idea that I told my corporate advisor like 10 years ago that works for those companies now, and we had a falling out. But long story short, I've contacted everybody, and it's really disheartening because I've like literally invested my life into a real actual solution for global warming, world hunger, malnutrition, just like environmental protection, and then additionally just like the food's just better, you know, all of it's better, and nobody gives a shit. I'm forced to compete with slaves in China and all these people in Mexico, and so people don't care when they sit down and they eat this chemical-laden stuff from China and pay organic prices for it because they're not actually like being told the truth about where their stuff is sourced from. Then there's other restaurants that are like super transparent about it, but they don't have like a lot of business, and they don't stay open for very long in most cases because that's like a niche market. So then I tried selling stuff to the restaurants, and that was cool, but they wanted like really cheap prices, deliveries at 3 a.m. every day, massive bags. I like hired people, and we were getting it all done, but the money just wasn't there. So then I thought, okay, I've got my life savings in this. It's not working. The president at the time is not helping me. The governor at the time is not helping me. Congress at the time is not helping me. Nobody's going to help me. So, except for my family. And they've already helped as much as they can. So I'm at a point here where I got to find a new way to make money, and I come up with, okay, I'm going to get some freeze dryers. So we can't afford the freeze dryers because we spent all our money on this $1 million farm. And we're producing fresh food, but I figure if I can get freeze dryers, I can produce freeze-dried cooking herbs and sell them on Amazon. So that's what I do. I build a whole, I source all the packaging and sealing and the labels, and I get artists and pay them, and they render it, and I get it all custom printed, and I put all the labels on the jars, and I weigh everything out. Then we start freeze drying and chopping stuff up. And I send it to Amazon, and they require you to send them a sample so that they can like inspect what it is that they're putting on the website, which seems fair and makes sense to me. You don't want to like be selling deodorant for like $100 and it have like cocaine inside it or something, you know. So they gotta like check stuff, kind of like TSA at the airport. So that all makes sense. If I send mine in, and oh well, all these guys are coming for me. Run. But they end up taking like way longer. It's supposed to be like a week or two, and then they'll approve your product for sale. It ended up being like a month. And then when they finally approved my product for sale, I was like, okay, we've got one freeze dryer with all the money that I've scrounged together, but I need more. I need at least 2 more. So we make a crowdfunding campaign, and I make a crowdfunding campaign for freeze dryers and solar panels, and you know, we make the whole video and everything, put it up on Kickstarter. I put $5,000 in ads with like an advertising agency, and we must have been getting censored or just nobody cared, because like we didn't even hit $5,000. But there's like transgender children's coloring books that are raising millions of dollars so that kids can have a coloring book that confuses them about their gender or something. I don't know. But that's worth $1 million. But the food system of the future is garbage, and I'm garbage. And nobody deserves to hear me or see that I exist. Right? So I've tried all this stuff. Nobody's helping. And there's all this crazy stuff starts happening. Then Amazon, within a month, knocks off my product verbatim. It's exactly the same. They have the same jar, the same lid, the same label. The only difference is that their label is their brand, and they've printed their own label. And then the same product, but they bought the product in mass from Germany, shipped it over here, put it in bottles, and then undercut me and charged me so much in fees that I could never compete with them. So to give you an idea of what happened here, I spent 10 years, $1 million, all of my 20s, mad sacrifices. I'm partially handicapped now. I'll get into that later. But I get this stuff on the market. Nobody cares because they can get it cheap from China or Mexico for the chemical garbage that's killing everyone. And so I can't make money doing that. So then I make the freeze-dried herbs and I put it on Amazon, but Amazon rips it off, undercuts me, charges me exorbitant fees, and eventually I go out of business. And COVID. So like all of that just put me out of business. No questions asked. And nobody has attempted to help us. I've asked for help from just about everybody. Now, the thing that's really irritating is that like in my Kickstarter campaign, I made a comment about how we have the technology now, and you know, Elon, I'm right here. You know, I've tried to contact you like 1,000 times. I've done it. I'm not just talking about it. Here it is. You know, and then their response to that is, we're gonna try to knock off and steal everything we can, and we're gonna make a giveaway for $100 million for whoever comes up with carbon sequestering technology that's fully scalable. I did this 10 years ago. I've been contacting you and X Prize and everybody saying, I'm ready for my $100 million. Let's do this. Because It might not be what they're looking for, but it fits the criteria. And they might not know it yet, but this is more advanced than what they're looking at. So like, you're looking at carbon scrubbers and stuff, fine. That may make more sense initially, but that's not how you're going to terraform Mars. And that's not how you're going to save the planet. What I've learned from this whole process is that there's some major variables in growing produce. The first one is the climate. It's got to be the right temperature and the right humidity, or you're just screwed and don't bother. Second, it's got to be indoors, because all of these insects have become so resistant to pesticides that if you're not at least in a greenhouse or indoors, forget about it. You're going to have to spray it with a bunch of stuff. It's going to be unhealthy to eat. Unless you're like in a certain area where like something is grown, like oranges in Florida. But for example, they've got the greening virus in Florida, which has taken out a lot of orange farmers, and they've got to find something else, so they're transferring into hemp, which I've also done. But I've grown the hemp, and it's humid here, and it's hard to compete with, California and Colorado when they've already like mastered this whole industry, and I'm not even allowed to grow wheat, but they've already like made billions of dollars. So it's really frustrating because like no matter what I do, my products get ripped off. I get suppressed or silenced. People don't know I'm out there, that I've done this stuff. So like now I'm playing New World beta, making these videos for whoever's watching them, and it's a total waste of potential because I could be feeding millions of people if the government or any of these large corporations would pay any attention to me at all. But they want to talk about Satan shoes and taking a knee and quitting and changing your gender and whether or not your kids should wear a mask. And like some of these things are important, but they're not like life or death. The whole planet's gonna boil us to death like a bunch of frogs in a pan. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, the analogy is how do you cook a frog? You can't just throw a frog in boiling water because he'll use his legs and jump out. So the French or whoever used to have a delicacy of cooking frogs. So like the only way to cook a frog is really slow so that he doesn't know that he's cooking. And by the time he realizes that he's cooking, it's too late. And he can't jump out because he's already being cooked. So you can't just throw a frog into a pot of boiling oil and expect him not to jump out. And that's what we're looking at right now. We are, the planet is the pot, is the pan. And we are the frogs. And we're slowly being boiled right now. And people aren't noticing, except for a handful. And they're like, hey guys, if this burner stays on and this water keeps getting hotter, we're gonna get cooked to death. And I'm one of those frogs. It's like, ribbit, ribbit, we're gonna get cooked to death. And I'm so much one of those frogs that I spent $1 million in 10 years building it with nobody's help. And I've reached out countless times to countless people and organizations and corporations, and nobody has stepped up to the plate. And it's primarily because it's not the narrative. Nobody wants to see a white guy, a white straight guy who is leaning towards conservative, save the world with this liberal-esque farm, like this off-grid, all-natural, everybody wins farm. I'm not the narrative. If I was a female and a minority, and I had like a closet scale system in my apartment, I'd raise $1 million on Kickstarter. But because I put $1 million down and I'm a straight white conservative male asking for 10 grand, everyone thinks I'm like a crook or it's a scam or I don't need it because of white privilege. And because of that misconception. I've literally lost my livelihood. Imagine imagine spending 10 years to be a doctor or a surgeon, and then somebody that's on their phone rear ends you and breaks your hands, and you can't be a surgeon anymore. Just like as soon as you became a surgeon, somebody breaks your hands. And that's basically what happened here, is that like I became the surgeon of trying to find a solution to global warming and malnutrition and world hunger. And I did, and I built it. And when I finally built it and put it on the news, I got rear-ended by an Escalade. I got 15 herniated discs in my back. And now I struggle to find out how am I going to pay my bills, because my livelihood has been taken away by Amazon, by women texting and driving. Like, how is that fair, and why is nobody helping me, and why am I being lumped in with all of these evil white people that have preceded me? I have nothing to do with them, right? I've not done any of that. My family is complete opposite. My family's won all the wars. We freed the slaves. We were part of the Underground Railroad. The house I grew up in had a false walls and basement that we used to smuggle slaves into Canada with. So I get looked at and treated a certain way because I'm a typical looking white guy, and it's difficult because it's like I feel like now I'm the one being discriminated against. I did the work and I spent the money, and it's noble, and it's going to help way more people than myself, and I've paid the ultimate price for it, just like these vets. And I'm watching these incompetent people pretend like there's no solution, pretend like there's no better way to do it, and they're not even exploring their options that they're being presented with. They don't even have to search for the option. I've been in their face with a flare, waving a flare around in their face for 5-10 years, and everybody's ignoring me, to the point where they're going to offer $100 million prize and pretend like there's not 100 people like me that have already done this. I mean, I got trained by the guy that invented this technology years ago, and he got screwed, and he told me, good luck, because they're going to screw you too. And he was right. And now we've created this system where it harbors our most creative and hardworking and honorable people get punished the most and rewarded the least. And how long until all those people go somewhere else or just give up? And then we've got no more people trying anymore. And that's what we're facing down the barrel of, a loser society where everybody says there's no solutions and your life is expendable, and all you are is a person to buy a vote from and to pay your taxes, and your life is expendable. And you could dedicate your life to world peace and world hunger and all of that, and nobody will care. And I hope that even if just one person heard this whole thing, thanks for listening, because I feel like I watch the news and it's embarrassing. I mean, we got people in the Olympics quitting like on the spot, saying that they're like oppressed or something. I mean, you're representing our whole country. Get real. You're not oppressed. You're on a pedestal. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. See you.